Hi guys, BellaDonna Black here, and here are 5 true creepy stories. So, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. Number 1. Our elderly neighbour fell sick and had to go to hospital. Her niece asked us to take care of her dog while she was away. So after schoolwork and dinner and all, me and my brother were sent off to make sure he was doing okay. So it was late at night in this weirdo lady's house. My brother was in the shed with the dog, and I was in the living room looking at the creepy old photos on the mantelpiece. What follows is true. I heard the door creak, and then a woman's voice called out the dog's name. I freaked out, turned around. Obviously there was nobody about. I thought maybe it was the neighbour's niece, but I had that weird, did I hear that outside my head or inside it? Echo to it. You know what I mean. So I also thought I was just letting the creepy house get to me. But then I went out to my brother, a knocky, and he was freaking out too because he thought he'd heard a woman's voice inside the shed with him saying, "Oh, there you are." We both agreed the voice had that weird in your head sound to it, and we were convinced there was a ghost in the place. Left the dog in the shed, went home, and were greeted by Dad, who told us the neighbour's niece had just called to say that the neighbour had passed away in the hospital a few hours ago. Number 2. A few years ago, I was home alone at night time. I was watching TV in the living room when I heard the doorbell ring. Whenever I hear the doorbell ring, especially when I'm home alone, I am cautious to answer it. I walk up to the peephole without turning on the porch light, so they don't know if anyone's actually home or not. It's really dark, but I can see a small figure, more like black blob. I don't know. Its definite shape and had to be around 3 to 4 feet, doing like a dancing motion, dipping down, and still reading its arms outward. Think of a person moving their arms like wings gracefully. It was dark outside, but this figure was more opaque, so I could see this going on. After a few seconds, I stopped looking through the peephole because it was too freaky to look at. I regained some courage and looked back through, and whatever it was gone. To this day, I still don't know what that was, and I get freaked out thinking about it. Number 3. There's an abandoned house next to mine. The previous owner moved out to California 25 years prior and never sold it. I got a flashlight, gloves, and pushed the window open and went inside, starting with the basement. In the basement was a grand piano. Still plays, but very much out of tune. Old World War II stuff. What seemed to be a signed Elvis poster. Some other really cool shit no one could ever leave behind. There's basically a whole story in that basement, including a broken wedding picture frame and instruments everywhere. On the main floor was an unmade bed, molded food still in the fridge, and on the stovetop, half-empty beers turned solid, lights that still hadn't been turned off. Then I started walking upstairs when I heard crying from one of the side rooms. That's when I freaked the fuck out and haven't been there since. Number 4. I was just talking about this today. Scary because of human nature. My neighbour at my old apartment was a state park ranger for years. Now retired. Apparently, when he first got the job, there was a younger kid who went missing while out on a camping or hiking trip. They organised a huge search of the area to no avail. No clues or anything. Kid is still missing. A few years go by and some evidence turns up that wasn't in the direction they originally searched. It was part of his camping equipment. On his off time, my neighbour took to searching the area where it was found, hoping for more clues. Just outside the state park lived a couple in a ramshackle hovel who were quite reclusive and odd. One day, my neighbour had to talk to them about something unrelated to the missing kids. He is in their house, which is a mess of junk, no running water, etc. Hard to focus on anything there. While he is talking to the couple, he realises that the guy's ashtray looks weird. He looks closer and realises that it's a skull. It looks so small. There's this investigation into the couple, and here is where things get really weird. An investigation shows that they were innocent of killing the kid. He probably died of exposure or dehydration. Apparently, this guy came across the skull afterwards, and his dogs were after it. When he took the skull, it was really recent after death, and apparently it was still a head, features, hair, everything. The guy took it and defleshed the damn thing and took the top off to use as an ashtray. Apparently, he was well aware there was a then current searching for a missing child. He could recognise the kid from the pictures, but it never dawned on him or his wife to go to the cops and inform them of the find. He just saw an opportunity for an ashtray. Apparently, he showed them where the remains were, and they scrounged together enough for burial, but kept it quiet so that the family didn't know that some guy put out his marbles in their kid's head for 5 years after letting his dogs eat his remains. Number 5. About 5 years ago, my mum started dating a guy she met on a dating site. That part is fine. I'd recently started dating the woman who would later become my wife, and we had met online. I'll refer to her as my wife for this story. Anyway, my wife and I never really liked this guy. We didn't think he was mean or anything like that, just a little creepy. He was quiet. He kept his eyes closed a lot, and occasionally said odd things like offering my wife a chocolate, then popping one in his mouth, closing his eyes and moaning as he let it melt in his mouth. One time, my wife and I were visiting my mum, but she called into work, so we waited at her house. Her boyfriend was over, but he spent the entire several hours just hanging out in her bedroom with the door closed. Just before Christmas, my mum and this guy started having some problems. My wife and I were visiting her for the holidays, and she dropped all of her problems on us. We listened carefully and told her our opinions, and suggested that she would be better off without him. She already had her mind made up, though, and decided to break up with him on Christmas Eve. We spent the night at my mum's and got up early on Christmas morning to visit my dad at his house. We didn't plan to spend the night at my dad's, but we got snowed in, which was actually a nice Christmas surprise. The next day, we left as soon as we could get through the snow, and my wife suggested that we stop by my mum's house on the way so we could see if she was okay. My wife had a really bad feeling about my mum's now ex-boyfriend. My mum's car was in the driveway, but that doesn't mean much because she lives close enough to work that she often walks, and it hadn't snowed in her town. She also never locks her door, which drives me crazy. So we let ourselves in. That's when we see blood oozing out of the refrigerator's water dispenser. It had filled up the spill container and was leaking onto the floor, and it made a puddle. My wife screamed and I freaked out. I fully expected to see my mum's head in the freezer. I nervously opened the freezer to find a bag of frozen cherries that had been opened, crammed into the freezer so that it fell into the ice dispenser and melted. Hi guys, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below and subscribe to my channel. You can also check out my Facebook page and my Twitter. Both links will be found in the description below.